Welcome everybody to Networking at Noon. Tiffanie Kellog here, and I am excited to be joined from way up north here in the United States, so separated by many, many states, with Tonya. She is visiting us today, and Tonya not only is the managing director for BNI Michigan, is it the whole state of Michigan?
Whole state of Michigan.
That's a big state. And she also has TAC, which we'll tell you about in a little bit, though. I see that you've listed that you are a business coach that specializes in relationships. So you're kind of like a marriage counselor or what?
No, not a marriage counselor, business coaching for relationships. So I use different tools and techniques like behavioral styles and also brain-based coaching to really help professionals leverage their relationships, not only in their own business, but with their staff and their coworkers and their partners, but also how are they leveraging the relationships with people in their power teams or contact spheres to gain more referrals, build their credibility, build their trust so that they are more successful in business.
So relationships matter when it comes to your success in business?
Just a little bit. And not just when it comes to referral relationships. The relationships matter, with your employees, with your current clients. How are you maximizing those relationships and really practicing the platinum rule, which I know you're very familiar with referrals. But so really practicing that platinum rule to maximize the relationships and adapt to other people so that we're honoring who they are versus trying to get what we need or want out of the relationship.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the platinum rule, whether you're watching this live on Facebook or out there in the YouTube world? People may not be as familiar as I am with the platinum rule. So you can tell us what that's all about.
Absolutely. So many of us have heard of the golden rule, treat others the way they want to be treated. I mean, I was brought up with that mindset of treat others the way they want to be treated. But what I've learned through all the coaching that I've done for the last 20, almost 30 years now on behavioral styles is it's not necessarily how I want to be treated, but really identifying the other person and what their needs and desires are. So how do we look at the behavioral styles? Many people are familiar with DISC. We use Roomful of Referrals, or you use Roomful of Referrals and Asentiv. That's how I was trained recently. So we use DISC as the foundation. So for example, somebody who's a D, or what we would call a go-getter in Roomful of Referrals, they like things fast-paced, to the point. If I need all the details and I'm working with somebody who's a go-getter, if I were to sit down with all the details, they're going to check me out in the first 10 seconds or less, right? So really helping people understand the different behavioral styles and the platinum rule, and then how do we approach them? How do we honor them? How do we give them the tools and resources to be able to refer us or develop the deeper relationship, knowing what's going to motivate them and not just what's going to motivate me or what I need out of the relationship?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think a lot of times people think referral marketing, let me go out there and meet a whole bunch of people and get some referrals. And I really think they need to rename it relationship marketing, because it's about the individual relationship that you have with a person.
Absolutely.
So like in your opinion, in your mind, what is relationship marketing and why is it important?
Yeah, good question. We've talked, I know you and I have talked over the years. It's not about having a ton of people in your network. Some people have that perception, well, I need to go to events every day, or I need to go to events every week, and I need to meet all of these people so they've got this great pool of people to pass me referrals. It really is about the relationship. It's not about how many people do you have in your contact database. It's the relationship. What do you know about them? What are they looking for? What's their target market? How do we equip them with the things to listen for and how to respond? I know in Ignite Your Business, you talk a lot about the funneling conversations. So, you have to have those funneling conversations. So, if somebody's going to fit in your network, it doesn't help you to have 100 people's contact information if they don't have access to your target market. So then once if they've got access to your target market, the relationship really comes into how do you guys educate each other? How do you stay engaged? How do you stay visible and create that, quality, credible relationship with them and compel them to want to help you? That giver's gain thing that we talk about in BNI truly does work, right?
Yes. And now speaking of BNI, you have I guess it's a recently new position in BNI. If you look at how long you've been in BNI, I'm not sure how long you've been in the role of managing director or with BNI. Tell us, because I know you've been in BNI for quite a while.
Yeah, I've been in BNI since 2005 and joined the director team in 2008. I know we've got that in common.
I was I didn't realize we both joined BNI in 2005.
We did.
Wow.
I can't remember where I figured that out. But yeah, I've been in BNI since 2005. I've been on the director team since 2008 and held a variety of roles. And I recently took over the managing director role in November. So in November of 2020, right in the middle of the world being on fire, I took over the managing director role, and it's been a fun journey ever since. And I love being able to help more people and really work with a dynamic team to help people make more money.
How many chapters are there in Michigan?
102 right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And growing. We've got a couple more in the pipeline. So we should be at 106 very, very soon.
Now you're from Michigan. I'm in Florida, so I have no idea. So where in Michigan are you located?
I'm from Grand Blanc, which is about 45, 50 minutes north of Detroit and about a half hour south of Flint. So for anybody who's familiar with Michigan, that I-75 corridor that goes from the south border to the north border, I'm kind of halfway through.
Wait, I-75 is right around the corner from me. So all I need to do is go jump on 75 and drive north. And 17 days later.
No, about 23 hours later, but who's coming?
Oh, okay. Now, and you know that because I know you, when you're not working, you love to travel, don't you?
I do like to travel.
What do you like about traveling?
Seeing different people. I love experiencing different things, whether it's a new restaurant or a new beach. I do love mountains and I love beaches. So experiencing a new beach or, going into the mountains and just the tranquility of it. But also seeing, landmarks and, different cultures and different communities and how they work and the different events and things that they have. I just love sucking in all of the different cultures and community.
So I know you just got back from where?
Myrtle Beach. I was in Myrtle Beach.
You go there frequently, don't you?
I do. Yeah. My best friend has a place down there. So we spend some time down there, and I try to go down at least 3 or 4 times a year.
What's the next big trip you've got planned or you're planning? Because I know right now travel's kind of weird.
Yeah, so we've got, my husband purchased an RV last year to make it even easier for us to travel. So we've got several little weekend getaways planned throughout the summer. But then my next big trip is we're going to California in September, celebrating some friends of ours who got married out there 20 years ago. So celebrating their 20-year anniversary, going back to the scene of the crime and spending some time in wine country and celebrating their 20-year anniversary and do a little wine tasting, seeing some friends out there, probably some family out there.
Is it like Northern California where we used to go hang out?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're going to be staying in Napa Valley, and we probably will stop and see Don and Mike in Santa Rosa. So we'll be up in Northern California for most of the time. Yeah.
So speaking of traveling in California, so I don't know how many times, Tonya, you and I have been out to California. So when you were with Asentiv, their conferences used to be held out in California. So usually at least once a year, we would head out to California. And get to, do some work and some play. And, so I know you're super familiar with Asentiv. Why would the people watching, because we're here on Asentiv Florida's page, this Networking at Noon is hosted by Asentiv. So why should people take a look at Asentiv or consider Asentiv?
Yeah, for me, when I left corporate America, I was a store manager for a major retailer, and I knew how to sell. And I knew how to teach people to sell, but I knew how to sell when they came to us. So it was, their advertising, and people would come to us because we were a department store. So when I left that industry and started my marketing company, outside sales, flaking on words, outside sales was something new to me. I thought it was gonna be super easy just to go door knocking and get people to buy stuff because I was good at selling, right? But it was different. And I was introduced to BNI and Referral Institute at the time, our old name, back in 2006, I think was when I was introduced to Asentiv. And I went through the program as a client first and loved the strategy behind it. Because I had been networking and going to chamber events, and even sometimes in BNI, I'd go and I would just, meet a lot of people, but I really didn't have the strategy behind it. I really didn't understand the value of having a good power team and contact spheres. I didn't understand the value of that consistent communication and building that visibility. it happened naturally through BNI, but when I learned the system that Ignite Your Business has, where increasing your visibility increases the credibility, and how are you equipping them, and what's the strategy behind it, and being proactive in referrals. So the first concept time somebody said you can predict your referrals, I'm like, yeah, no, you can't. You can't. But yeah, now through the tools and resources that I learned through Asentiv, absolutely you can predict your referrals. It's all about having the right people on your team, having the right message, equipping them with the right information, and you truly can predict those referrals.
Awesome. So we've talked a little bit about BNI and the traveling, but we haven't talked a lot about TAC. And so when I was younger, I was really excited. My initials were TAB, T-A-B. I'm like, oh, I have some fun initials. And then I got married and now it's T-A-K. And the only thing that I can come up with that's TAC is in Stephen King. He has a pair of books, same characters, different universes. It's real fun. The Regulators and the Desperation. And kind of one of the characters is TAC. Other than that, nothing. And so TAC, T-A-C, which is yours, and T-A-K, my initials, aren't quite the same, but close enough. So tell me about your TAC. I told you about my TAC.
So TAC coaching and training, it's Tonya Acha coaching. So that's where the initials, the acronym came from. I do a lot of relationship coaching. I do work with my clients on how to build the relationships, how to use organizations like BNI to build their referral base, to build those referral partners and create those partners versus just having that list of people to do. And then I do spend some time, very similar to what you do in Asentiv, in coaching them on how to put that strategy. I take in TAC, a lot of times I take more of a one-on-one coaching versus group classes. So I don't do as much with like an Ignite Your Business program anymore. I do more one-on-one. And I also put the behavioral styles coaching into that. But then I've also layered in, I was certified in brain-based coaching through an organization called Inspiral. So how does the brain work, and how are our social needs, and what does that little thing, the amygdala, do to help us be more effective and hold us back? So I spend a lot of time working with my clients on creating good habits, and how do we get out of the paralyzation that we sometimes put ourselves in when things aren't going well. And, the brain wants predictability, and the brain wants answers to questions. I mean, it's just how it functions. And right now, most business owners don't have that. So being able to have those skills to help them get past and get beyond, the paralyzation that we've had during COVID, just be able to look at things differently, pivot differently. Sometimes it is creating different referral sources, or focusing on different aspects of our business when we get stuck on something that we can't control. So so more of an individual approach to building their business through building relationships.
So I want to come back to, what kind of clients you like to work with, but that just so made me think. So right now we're part of a book club, and we're reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Is that it? By Dr. Joe. Yep. I always mess up his name.
Dr. Joe.
Dr. Joe. And so we've just finished week 2, but it's interesting that you bring up the brain work, because it's very much about kind of that ideal, that brain work and how that works. So it's really interesting that you've got that background. So I look forward to seeing your take next week on the chapter as we talk about some of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the power of positivity, because the brain also looks for negativity and threat 7 times a second. So if we can acknowledge that our brain biologically is always looking for threat and negativity, and be aware of that, how can we do things like you and I are doing today to put that positive energy into the world, and just throw that pebble into that pool of negativity and just create the ripple of positiveness. So
if somebody said, give me a single tip, something easy to do to try and be more positive than negative, or just maybe even just shift the pendulum a little bit. I don't even know if that works, but one little change.
Yeah. So one little change, and you and I talked about this yesterday, the power of sharing gratitude. So every day, whether it's a gratitude journal or speaking it out loud, what is that trigger to start your day, thinking about something positive? That is a good step. And when you find another tip you could use is when you find yourself kind of stuck in that negativity, or you're frustrated, or you're feeling defensive, we use an acronym NETS. So good nutrition, exercise, training. So being aware, and how do you train yourself to kind of pull out of those things, and then also sleep. So if you find yourself in that frustrating mode, don't go grab a glass of wine, even though I love to do wine tasting. That does help short term, but that doesn't help long term. But good nutrition and then energy and fresh air. So get outside, get some fresh air, find something that's going to motivate you. I know essential oils work too. So there's certain essential oils that will trigger the brain to be more positive, and what triggers you as a person. One of my clients actually sniffs vanilla when she gets stressed, because she loves chocolate chip cookies, and that just gives her that positive trigger in her brain, which gets her out of the negative space. And it's amazing how quickly that works for her.
Oh, interesting. Yesterday I was craving chocolate, but I actually found it's a tea, and it's like stress relief is the name, but it's made with cocoa beans or something. So it's got a little chocolatey taste. So instead of grabbing a chocolate bar, I like grabbed a cup of tea, and I felt better, better with that choice afterwards than the.
Well, yeah, because your brain just needs that to fuel that little need.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the essential oils. That's a great idea.
Yep. And sugar will, so sweet sugar will trigger the positive stress hormones in your brain. You don't need a lot of it. They say you only need about enough sugar that's in a half of a Tic Tac. So we don't need to eat a bag of chocolates or an entire chocolate bar, but if that is something that you're craving, grab something small, because your brain really only needs that.
That's why sometimes I'll just grab like the little dark chocolate chips.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you just eat 2 or 3 of those, you're good to go.
Good to go.
So getting back to tack, who is an ideal client for you? Who do you find really resonates and works well with you?
So people who want to, so let me step back. So people that are typically in higher risk industries. And I say higher risk, meaning like financial advisors, where you need a lot of trust to pass that referral, because you're investing tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars. It's a little riskier to pass that referral, because if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. So people that are in that high trust type industry are good for me. They need to be coachable, and they need to understand the value of a strategy. We're not just throwing darts at a board and hoping that they stick. They really need to have the time to invest in working on themselves and working on the long-term relationships, and not looking for a paycheck tomorrow. If they need a paycheck tomorrow to survive, I'm not your gal. It's really about putting the coaching in place and the strategy in place and the groundwork in place, so that you've got that long-term strategy.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess relationship marketing is more of a long-term strategy. So how can you use relationship marketing to increase your sales? We know it's not tomorrow, but how do we use it?
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier, having the right people. So how do you sift through all of those contact spheres and other, professionals, whether you meet them at a chamber, BNI, or wherever, how do you sift through them and find the right people who are compelled to want to work with you? And then taking the time to get to know one another deeper, not just who you are and what you do, but taking the time to really learn about them and what they do, and learn about you and what you do, and then putting those action steps in place. So is it doing one-to-ones? Is it, joining a golf league together, or joining a sailing club together, or participating in a nonprofit event together, or
like virtual wine Wednesdays?
Or doing virtual wine Wednesdays. Absolutely. Love to have more people on virtual wine Wednesdays. We have a lot of fun and make some great connections there.
We'll come back to that.
How do you really create those activities or the events to do that? I do work with a lot of financial advisors, so really helping them put that structure and strategy into who are the right people. How do we find the right people with the right mindset to pass you referrals? And, they're hindered by some compliance things. So where you and I can do a lot on social media, and we can post testimonials and do stuff like this, because in insurance and finance, sometimes they have a lot of restrictions and a lot of compliance things within their broker dealers, which makes it tough. So it's really navigating through what they can do and finding the things that will work well based on who they are.
Gotcha. And do they need to be in Michigan for you to work with them?
They do not. I can work with anybody.
All right. So tell me about Virtual Wine Wednesday.
Oh, Virtual Wine Wednesday. So I started Virtual Wine Wednesday a year ago. So I am a networker. I love my people. I love to be out hugging my friends and doing social events and social gatherings. So in March of 2020, when the world shut down and I was forced to stay at home with only my husband for weeks, I got a little stir crazy and I was missing my friends, and I knew that I needed to do something to stay connected to my people. And since I couldn't see them in person, I just threw it out there. Anybody want to have a glass of wine on Zoom one week? And we had a few people show up. And then the next week we had a lot of people show up. And so it started the third week of March. We started with our first Wine Wednesdays, and we have been doing it every single Wednesday for a little over a year now. And, it's some of the same people that are there every week, and we get new people that jump on every week. Some people come from one event, some people come, multiple events, and it's a 90-minute meeting from 4:30 Eastern to 6. And, we do some introductions. We do talk about some business. We talk about some crazy questions. We have 2 rules. You can't talk about COVID and you can't talk about politics. So we keep it positive just by removing those 2 things from the conversation. And you don't have to drink wine. We have some people that drink water or tea. I know you can show up with water or tea sometimes because you have some late night things. So some people come with coffee or tea. Some people come with whiskey. It really doesn't matter. It's all about the community and just getting out of, our workspace, or, doing something fun and connecting with people.
Cool. And if people are interested in Wine Wednesdays, what's the, cost of admission? How do they find out about it? How do they get signed up, etc.?
Yeah. So there is no cost for admission. I do post frequently on my Facebook page. You can always private message me through Facebook and I'll send you the link. We do have a private page. So if you're interested, we'll put you on the private page. I just don't like to put the link public. So because we've had some spammers jump on. So I don't put the link public, but connect with me on social media or email me and I will get you a link.
Well, speaking of getting in touch with you, how do people get in touch with you?
A lot via social media. Or my email address. My email address is super easy, Tonya@tonyaacha.com. That's TONYAACHA.com. Those are the easiest 2 ways to connect with me and hunt me down, and I will get back to you.
Awesome. So I have 2 final questions for you. The second question I'm going to ask is what's your favorite brew, just so you know it's coming. But the question I'm going to ask prior to that is, in your mind, in your opinion, because we're here at Asentiv Florida's page where we're focused on helping people get referrals. So what do you feel is the best way to get referrals?
Good question.
Or I know sometimes that's kind of like, what's a good way? Because I always hate picking a best.
Yeah. A good way to get referrals is really identifying who is your best referral source. So take a look at, do they have access to your target market? Where do you know them? I know, Wine Wednesdays has been a great referral source for me, as well as many people who join, because I invited you not to refer you to somebody on the call. However, you came, we introduced you, you built, in that casual conversation, it was the relationship first. And I know 1 or more of the Wine Wednesday people have come to you and are now working with you. So I really feel that when we make those introductions, because of the relationship and not necessarily because of the product or service, the other person has to have the need or the want. But when we're making the connection because of the relationship, that typically is much more effective and more fun than just throwing a name out there. Hey, you need to talk to Tiffanie about this. So that doesn't always work.
Gotcha.
Doesn't usually work.
So what's your favorite brew?
You asked me that question and we've talked about this before, and for me, it depends on the day. I love sour beers. So Jolly Pumpkin is a brewery here in Michigan, and they specialize in sour beers. La Roja is probably my all-time favorite sour beer. If you're asking me in the fall, it's La Parsala, which has a pumpkin-y flavor to it, but La Roja is probably my all-time favorite. I do, if it's in the evening, like a cooler evening, I like Maya Mocha, which is a kind of a coffee stout with a little bit of cayenne pepper on the back end, which is yummy. So yeah, I don't have one favorite. I can't pick one.
So I lied. I'm going to throw one more question in there. When are you and Dave getting in your RV driving to Florida so we can go down to Arcane Brewery? They specialize in sours. They have a Baby Yoda pants, which is super delicious and green. It's kind of funky, but super yummy. So, it's a sour brewery. When are y'all coming? No, I'm not going to put you on the spot like that, but
yeah. It's funny.
Boom.
Dave and I have talked about that. We probably won't do the RV, and it's a really long drive for an RV.
Yeah.
But we've got some inexpensive flights going out of Flint, so we just have to get on the calendar and come down.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a guest bedroom now that actually has a
I saw
bed. So, well, thank you.
Newly decorated.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Tonya, for being here with us today for Networking at Noon. Thank y'all so much out there in the Facebook world for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we will be back here interviewing Dean from the Palm Harbor Chamber to talk about an option of a place to go networking. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.